Hello everyone. Okay, in today's video I am going to be doing the scored review for Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Now, before I get into it, this game is developed by NT Creates and it's published by NT Creates. And it's basically, if you've played any of the old 2D platforming Castlevania games, then you know what you're getting into, because this is done by the very same person that created the Castlevania series. So, uh, it's not that hard to figure out. I mean, he's definitely done some changes from the formula, but not a whole lot. So as with all my, oh yeah, sorry, before I get into it, if you are enjoying this kind of content, while it be the playthrough slash walkthroughs or the reviews that I do for this game, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel. So now I will actually get into the scored review. Now, this game, like I said, is based off of the old Castlevania formula, so if you've played those, you know what you're getting into going forward with this. Now, I score games on 5 different categories, and that's being story, graphics, music, sound effects, gameplay mechanics, and the achievements. Now, starting with the story, while I think this game's got a great story, I can't speak for the PC, the PlayStation, or the Switch versions of this game. There are multiple different endings to this game. There's one for sacrificing all your teammates, which I believe is called the Emperor of Darkness ending. There's one for beating the game without recruiting or sacrificing anybody, which is the Nightmare's End. Then there's one, and this is one of the ones that irritates me, Blade Gleaming at Sunrise. This ending is when you recruit 1 or 2 of your teammates, but don't sacrifice or recruit the third. Now, this is one of the 2 endings that on this version of the game I can vouch for. You don't get an ending, and you should. I've actually looked it up. If you've actually finish the game, like let's say you had I'll use the alchemist, Alfred. You beat the game, you have Alfred. You get a brief synopsis of Zangetsu defeated the great evil. Alfred does his thing, and then Jeeble and I can't remember the other chick's name. Maria. I don't remember. But, and it's weird because I've beaten Rachel tonight. So I apologize for not getting her name right. So each character has like a little snippet of explaining what they would go do after you finish the game with this ending. Then there's the one where you sacrifice 1 or 2 people, but don't sacrifice to recruit the third person, which is that man Zengetsu. Now there's only one variation of this ending, but it is also one of them that is not existent in this version of the game, because both of them you would get a black screen where they would be standing on the cliff edge looking at the castle that you just finished defeating the enemies at. So those 2 endings are basically non-existent in this version, even though you can still get them to trigger, and there are achievements tied to them, which makes absolutely no sense, but whatever. But to be honest, that man Zangetsu and all 3 variations of Blade Gleaming at Sunrise really don't add anything to the story. All of them basically say, this doesn't seem right. and then you're done with the ending. It's just blade claiming at sunrise. You get alters just a little bit based on who's in your party when you finish it. And then there's the ending for Those Left Behind, which canon-wise, which is for recruiting every party member and finishing the game, canon-wise, this is the true ending, because then you unlock Nightmare difficulty, whereas sacrificing everybody unlocks the ultimate mode version. But saving or recruiting everybody and finishing the game on with all three of your allies with you, you get the Those Left Behind ending, which also unlocks Nightmare mode. Which, when you finish Those Left Behind, you get an ending, and then you restart the game again in Nightmare, which has a separate ending explaining the whole canon part. Essentially, this is a prologue chapter leading into Ritual of the Night, supposedly, but there's a lot of like holes in the plot. So overall, with all the different endings and stories, there's a lot of story and lore in this game, even though it's an 8-bit style game. So all in all, if you're looking for a game that's deep in lore, even for this, how small this game is, and it's only technically 9 stages, but you only get 8 in any given playthrough, there's a lot here. But I still will be dinging the points because they never bothered to patch those 2 ending variations. Now, for the graphics, if you have played these old 2D games, then you know what kind of graphics you're getting into, and Iga and his group of developers did a fantastic job recreating the whole 8-bit aesthetic and 2D textures and models for this game. Now, all in all, like compared to today's standards, this doesn't look that great. But if you like the nostalgia feel, this does look great. When I actually played this, I thoroughly enjoyed the game the first time. Coming back to do the walkthrough for the endings and stuff like that was a blast. I'm kind of looking forward to doing the second one, but I think I'm going to put a game in between this one and maybe the second one so that I'm not missing out on anything. Now, the graphics, like I said, they did a good job, especially with like the backgrounds and stuff like that. It's pretty well detailed for it. Each character definitely has a distinct look and unique attack animations and different weapons, so you know, every character is very distinct. Every character has their own like background, which is part of the story, but the graphics for all of it is really well done. The bosses look great, most of the enemies look great. So like I said, if you like the old nostalgia feel, you'll feel right at home with this game. If you prefer something that looks new and with better graphics, this definitely won't be for you graphically. Now for the music and sound effects. The Castlevania franchise was well known for its music, and Iga's group Into Creates did a fantastic job with the music arrangement for this game and the sound effects, because every character's weapon sounds like the corresponding one, like the slashing sword, the whip, the staff swing, and the bat throw. And then each of the special weapons and things like that sounds like a chandelier falling. Now I'm not going to go play through this stage because this is the final stage technically for the Those Left Behind ending, but this is on the ultimate one. So I mean, the ultimate difficulty gets you special skills for Zangetsu, but it also changes how the bosses play. Now, for the gameplay mechanics, if you played any of the Castlevania games, you know what you're getting into. You got You get the right feel for the movement, and the jumping actually looks almost identical. The great thing about this is if you've played, I think it was Castlevania 3 is when they started doing sub-characters that could join you. I don't remember how many games after that do that, but I know for a fact 3 did it. 3, you had the Pirate Grant, Sypha Belnades, sorry if I'm pronouncing characters' names wrong, and Alucard, which, to put it simply, is essentially who these 3 are. You have Miria, that's her name, Miria, is essentially Trevor. Zangetsu's technically Grant with the short range and faster attack speed, although the difference between those two is Grant was like a lightweight fighter, whereas Zangetsu's a full-blown warrior, whereas Miria actually feels and plays like what I would expect from Trevor, except much higher jump rate. Sypha is basically the alchemist, Alfred here, and Alucard, complete with the 3 blast and the bat transformation. So he's very definitely based on, Jeeple's very definitely based on the Alucard. This game also uses the weapon point system for your special skills, and the great thing about this game is each character has their own unique sub-weapons. So unlike Castlevania 3 where Alucard / Jeeple in this has bad transformation, that is the only ability that character has. And Alfred here has a fire shield, an ice blast, and a lightning blast, and a duplication spell. So basically, he's got most of the same magics that were with Sypha in Castlevania 3. Now, Miria is definitely the unique one because essentially Zangetsu carries some of the abilities, like Zangetsu and Miriam have like very unique weapons. Like Zangetsu's got the ball and the Morning Star, I'm guessing is what it's called. I'm not sure. Which is basically an angled up chain whip, which is a new style item that I'm aware of for this style game. He's also got a holy water like item, which is I think it's called the demonic charm, which you basically throw it on the ground and it explodes into like a fireball and burns for a few seconds. Miriam, on the other hand, has a big selection. She's got the throwing knife, which is something that's been used before. The aerial angled up triple throwing knives, which is kind of like the Morning Star for Zangetsu, but it uses 3 weapons. She's got the Great Axe, which is what I use most often. Actually, I think she's only got those 3. Oh, nope, she's got the boomerang cycle, like the Holy Cross throwing weapon. So most of her weapons are closer to the Castlevania style. Except she doesn't get the throwing axe, she gets the giant battle axe. So, as for the gameplay, it's all around like really smooth and really well done. Each character has their unique gameplay values and stuff like that. So, if you've played Castlevania, you'll know most of the abilities going in. And plus, there's help signs in this game that explain each character's abilities and whatnot. Now, the controls, on the other hand, before I get into the controls, there's also a difficulty slider, which you can do Veteran, which allows you to be knocked back when you're hit, and you have limited lives, and you earn lives via points and stuff like that from playing the game. And then you have Casual, which is what I use to play through the game, because I've always hated that knockback effect, and you also get infinite lives. There's also different game modes. There's the normal playthrough, the nightmare playthrough, which is only one ending, the ultimate playthrough, which is any of the normal endings, but with Zangetsu having all his upgrades plus the charged sword, which I already showed you. And then there's boss rush mode. You unlock those from getting different endings. The boss rush mode, there are tricks and cheats you can activate for it, and if you want to know them, just go to the boss rush mode. I actually used one of them, which was sub weapons and hearts return after each boss is beat in the sub room. But I put in the description of that video the different things for the Xbox controls in order to get the abilities, and those cheats can unlock hearts and sub weapons return after each boss fight, ultimate Zangetsu's abilities, ultimate / nightmare variations of the bosses, and then those are the 4 cheats / power-ups you can use in that. Now back to what I was saying. The controls, this is something I actually liked. The gameplay is really smooth, very responsive. Unlike the Mega Man collection that I played, I experienced absolutely no lag input. The game played flawlessly. Anytime that I died, I definitely felt like it was my fault, or it was my dog aggravating me and jumping on me, one of the two. Usually my fault for, like, when I thought I hit the attack button accidentally, jump and jumped right into a hole. And as for the achievements, now this game is pretty straightforward with the achievements. There's one for beating all the different stages, 1 through 8, and then there's one for each of the ending variations, so the Emperor of Darkness, Nightmare's End, Blade Cleaning at Sunrise, Batman Zangetsu, Those Left Behind. And then there's one for the Nightmare ending, which is Fallen Moon's Requiem, which is for beating the quote 9th stage. And then there's an achievement for beating every boss in the boss rush mode. Now, as I always say with these, I rank a game 5 out of 10 as average instead of the industry standard of 7 or 8. And as the brief overview for it, the story is great with all the different variations, and you can explain everything away, like everything restarting with the Curse of the Moon effect. The story is great, but I'm definitely taking off a point or two for them having never patched those different endings in. While you can still technically get them, you don't see them, so you don't know what's said. Even though they're not really needed for anything, the other 3 endings I pointed out pretty much cover everything you need to know. The graphics all around, like if you like the 8-bit aesthetic, this is great, but if you don't, you're not going to like it. The music, sound effects, like I said, you know, great music, great sound effect. And the achievements, none of them are really hard aside from maybe Fallen Moon's Requiem and Big Game Hunting, and even those can be offset with like the difficulty sliders for like turning things to casual, or you know, using the cheat codes in the Big Game Hunting. So I would have liked to have given this game a 9, but because of that major issue with the story stuff, which is something they could have patched, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. And this game's been out way too long for them to ever go back and patch that, so I'm not even going to worry about saying I'll come back and change this if they patch it. They won't. So 7 out of 10. And as you know, with all things gaming, game logic, am I right? I'll see you guys in the next video.